Now, thank you.
My Lords, it's a great pleasure to take part in this hugely rich and informative debate that has so comprehensively torn to shreds this bill and the methods by which it arrived in your Lordship's House. It seems unfair to pick out one speech among so many brilliant ones, but I will highlight the contribution of the noble and learned Lord Judge on such a crucial issue. On the global stage, should a nation emerging from dictatorship produce a constitution with an electoral commission under government direction, we'd waggle our fingers and say, have another go. I must warn the noble and learned Lord that it's my intention to ensure that it gets as wide a circulation as possible. The noble Lord Kerr may warn him about the consequences of that, potentially. But that leaves me with a challenge, for I adhere to the principle of trying never to rise in your Lordship's House unless I have something different and substantive to add. So I'm going to begin with a statement that may come as a shock. I'm going to thank the noble Lord the Minister and the government for this bill and welcome its arrival in this House. Welcome because in bringing up all of these issues, as the government has found with Clause 9 of the Nationality and Borders Bill, in seeking to make what are already disastrously bad elements of our current outdated, undemocratic, dysfunctional systems worse, seeking to follow the Trumpian path of populist destruction, it's providing us with a wonderful opportunity to show how much we need to radically transform our current system. Those of us who understand that the people meant what they said in 2016, that they wanted to take back control of the planning in their communities, including protecting green spaces, control of their lives through decent jobs with a real living wage, control of Parliament with a Parliament that actually reflects the view of the people, not just the 44% of those who voted handing over 100% of the power to Boris Johnson, now have a great opportunity. This is a stage to present all of those proposals for making the UK a democracy. This is rather like a bear that stepped its paws into a bee's nest and hopes to run away with some honey before its residents can muster a response. And yes, my use of that simile is deliberate, given the issues I raised earlier in oral questions over the Prime Minister's inconsistent responses to my honourable friend Caroline Lucas's questions in the other place about the Russia report. The government is going to find it has raised a swarm of opposition, and a swarm that's determined to rebuild this hive into something stronger, smarter, more efficient, fit for the 21st century. I saw that this afternoon, and some noble lords, if they're in Millbank House and looked out the window, will have seen the giant billboard from the Democracy Defence Coalition, involving groups include Unlock Democracy and Make Votes Matter, setting out all of the things we can use this bill to make better. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes to create a portrait of what we could do to create a decent constitution, a modern constitution for the UK. First, because they're the future and a generation that will live it, votes at 16. We've got them in Scotland and Wales. Why should England's young people miss out? I talk to a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds. They're at least as well informed as the average 60-year-old. And they're experts on being a 16-year-old today in a way that no one who speaks for them in either chamber can be, and certainly I'm afraid your Lordship's House isn't. Next, automatic voter registration. I follow the noble Lord Willits on this. Many of them, including the noble Lord Moore in his maiden speech, and I must welcome him to the House as a fellow former newspaper editor, noted the gradual expansion of the franchise over history. Well, the final logical step, making sure that everyone actually has a vote, is automatic voter registration. You don't have to jump through those mysterious hoops. So many people naturally think if they're on the council tax roll, if they're enrolled at a university living in official accommodation, of course they think the state knows where they are and who they are. And those voices who we must hear most, those struggling in poverty, suffering discrimination and exclusion from society, they're the ones who are least likely to be able to navigate the current system. That's obviously the absolute reverse step of voter ID, which is restricting the franchise going backwards. There's no way the government can justify this voter suppression tactic taken straight from the US far right. when only 30% of registered voters turn out in council elections and less than 70% in general elections, there's no justification for acting to even further reduce turnout. Of course, as the noble Lord Balfe said, we need a proportional system for electing both the Commons and the Lords. That system, the current system, first past the post, well, we share it with Belarus. Not really a recommendation, is it? The noble Lord the Minister in his introduction suggested it was too difficult PR. Well, I would say that it's first past the post that's extraordinarily difficult for voters, because they have to guess how everyone else in their constituency is going to vote and try and adjust their vote accordingly, very often voting for the party they hate second most to stop the party they hate most getting in. And we need to see decentralisation, power taken out of here and put back into communities. But I'm going to finish by circling back to those Russian bears. We have to talk about political fundraising. What we need are extremely tight restrictions on individual and company donations to parties and campaigns. £500 maximum sounds about right. The Green Party in 2015 was a pioneer in crowdfunding political campaigns. Many thousands of people throwing a hard-earned £5, £10, £20 to support our efforts. And combined with state funding for politics, that's how we get a politics of the people rather than a politics of the plutocrats. The Minister said he wanted a system fit for the modern age. I'm happy to work with people around your Lordship's house to send the bill out of this House looking exactly like that. It's a great opportunity.
Hear, hear.